Sunday edition of the Best Bets show, presented by our fine sponsor at BetRivers. Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed are the weave today. Round of 32. That's Jim. That's Kai. I'm Matt. I'll be trying to host this program today despite the frog that's been perpetually lodged in my throat. But hey, let's get to it, kids. But first, Mr. McKeon, me and you watched basketball today, or watched basketball roughly for 24 hours straight the last 2 days.
Yes.
You've learned some things. Share with us.
Well, gosh, you got to start with St. Peter's. Guys, I was wrong, I suppose. I don't like to admit, Jim, my mistakes because I don't make many mistakes, Jim. That's right. I don't. No, I make plenty. And St. Peter's, give them credit. They were the better team yesterday. Wow, what a tournament they're having. Great story. Incredible that the Sweet 16 team from the MAC is not Iona, but St. Peter's.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you got to ride with the 15 seeds. We've seen it now multiple times. Oral Roberts goes to the Sweet 16. FGCU went to the Sweet 16. Here we have the Peacocks in the Sweet 16. Kai, I was wrong about the Gales. St. Mary's thought that they would out-discipline UCLA, but the Bruins really grinded out a great defensive effort. It kind of exposed St. Mary's for the lack of shot creation beyond Tommy Kuzi. UCLA shut them down in the post. Not a great game from Matthias Tass. So tip of the cap to the Bruins. They took care of business. They're on the Sweet 16, Matt. We might get dunked on by the Bruins if they go back to the Final Four.
No, I'm in on the Bruins now. I'm getting out of that team.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that team. That looked good. We'll see how Juzang's ankle holds up. I know his health is going to be a big question mark. Let's get into it, though. Big showdown here. We talked about this as the quadrant of doom when the bracket was unveiled. Houston, Illinois both survived and advanced. Well, Illinois survived by the skin of their teeth.
Barely.
Houston with a dominating, emphatic performance, basically shutting down all the Jelly Walker hype. Now they meet again, and I think the entire world looks at the spread and says, really? Illinois is catching how many against Houston? Mr. McKeon, I know you have some hot takes on this particular matchup. I will go to you and your heartthrob glasses first.
Thank you. Oh, thank you very much. These cost $31, in case you're wondering.
Bad purchase.
The bargain.
Honestly, it was a good purchase. But yeah, listen, I'm an analytic guy. Okay, you know me. But this spread's nuts, guys. It's nuts. I know Houston's up to 2 in KenPom. Illinois cannot be a 4-point dog on a neutral floor against Houston. Should be closer to pick. I think Houston does contain Kofi or has the ability to better than probably any team in the country, but they still have those pesky shooters to worry about, guys. And the guards were cold in round 1 against Chattanooga. I don't think they're going to be that way in this game. It's very funny to see people turn on Illinois after watching presumably the only game they watched all season against Chattanooga. Yeah, they didn't look very good in the first round. It doesn't mean it continues. So I think Illinois +4 is a good bet here. In fact, it's my best bet.
Interesting. I'm seeing Benny 1 in the chat say there's no way Houston contains Kofi. Houston doubles the post more than anyone in the country. The second there's a post touch, there are 2 people on him. He will get almost no touches. I think that's like a very important part of this matchup. You're going to hope to get a little more from Grandison. He played 9 minutes, barely did anything. The shoulder was clearly not right for him. And then Curbelo, I think, is kind of the wild card here. The on-off numbers, especially adjusted at Hoop Explorer, speak to Illinois being a lot better when he's not on the floor. He had 6 turnovers against Chattanooga, but I know in that individual game, his plus-minus was actually really good. It was good. 1 point win, I think he was +16.
Wow.
But I think it's more of a larger, bigger picture issue with Curbelo. He's a little sloppy. Yeah. And against a team like Houston, you can't be sloppy. They will take advantage. They will murder you in transition when they run. They don't run much, but they will murder you when they do.
Well.
But so, yeah, I think the post double Matt is a big part of this matchup. I'm with Kai. I think it should be closer to a pick 'em, but I'm not betting it.
Hot take. Actually, this is sort of a piggyback of many hot takes I've seen on Twitter, how the whole Big Ten narrative in the tournament, a lot of big guys, they can be exposed in certain matchups once you get outside the Big Ten chamber. I think we'll talk about this when we get to Big 12 later. But Kofi, obviously he's not great defending in space. I think he was exposed a little bit in that last matchup. Kai, your boy Coleman Hawkins is who I want to see featured more in this game. I think he's the better passer of the 2. He's good against Houston's doubles. I like to see him go a little through, play through him, maybe find cutters, find cheaters, just to try to free up some real estate for Plummer and Frazier there. All right, next game on the rundown. Ohio State, VILLANOVA. Jim, I want your takes on this one here. St. Louis State of EJ Liddell Kai gets it done. First round advancing, getting the monkey off his back from last year, vanquishing those demons. if Loyola makes half their layups, I think we're talking about a Loyola versus Villanova game here potentially. It's hard to say. I don't want to extrapolate too much from that, but Ohio State looked good defensively, but I think they were awfully propped up by Loyola in that game. I think I like Nova here. It's a short number to me. What are you looking at?
Yeah, 5.5. I'm leaning towards Villanova as well. I also like the under. I do agree. Ohio State got pretty lucky defensively. 1 of 8 from the free throw line for Loyola. 4 of 17 on layups. Like they completely could not make easy buckets. Shot quality scored that game as a 3-point win for Loyola. They had 24 more points per shot quality than they did on actual scoreboard. So yeah, I think that was kind of a fluky game, partially due to Ohio State's defense. I'll give them a little credit. Kyle Young being in the game was huge. They need him out there. There was a little more shot blocking for Ohio State than I expected. Liddell's great, but I think the whole Ohio State team had Loyola. I think Jordan Majewski said seeing ghosts on layups, and that was part of why they kept missing.
Lucas Williamson, man. God, tough
game for him.
Tough game for him.
Yeah. So I'm liking the under. If I had to take spread, it would be Villanova laying the points, but I'm not betting that. I'm betting the under and the first half under.
Yeah, Kyle Young's return obviously was huge in the first round. I mean, he's fantastic for them. But if Ohio State plays like they did against Loyola, against Villanova, they will get crushed. They left open shooters. Loyola, you mentioned missed a ton of layups and missed free throws. Villanova's not going to do that. And I think their offense absolutely eviscerates Ohio State's DMAT, which currently ranks outside the top 100. Top 10 offense for Nova, outside top 100 defense for Ohio State. I lean towards the Cats in this one too.
Yeah, I guess I'm looking maybe at the injuries for Ohio State. I know they got both Young and Key back last game. I mean, do we think they were like effective? I was fairly
Young was
I thought Young was 9 points, 35 minutes. He seemed like he was close to bags. Key only 12. He had 7 points in 12 minutes and 4 turnovers too. So kind of a tales of 2 stories there. Gonna need both in this game, no question. I do lean Nova at the number, just a little bit short, but no official play for Matthias. I will have a play in this one, this next one, and it's going to be a stubborn pick. And I'm sure there's going to be basically a late game bogus backdoor from Sparty, but Duke Sparty, Kai. Everyone's up in arms over Duke, allowing that last second dunk to Cal State Fullerton. It's St. Beer Park in a complete tizzy. Whatever. The place went nuts. I was not happy about it. Anyway, I think this line's a little short. Coach K owns Tom Izzo with the data backs it up historically. I think Michigan State also was fortunate to get past Davidson. I think people undervalued them to some degree, but I think they're exposed against this matchup. Joey Hauser against the Duke athletes on the wing. I fear for Sparty, so that's my lean.
Yeah, Duke didn't want to cover against Fullerton. Coach K was on the Spartan or the Titans, excuse me. Yeah, he had a big ticket, Matthew, on 18.5. Izzo versus K is the media's dream. I'm happy for the media that they got this matchup. I'm very excited for them. Congratulations, ESPN.
Way to go us. Yes. For us.
Tyson Walker playing. We talked about Kyle Young being huge. Tyson Walker playing for Michigan State was huge last game. He didn't score a lot of points, but he played 25 minutes. I think he's a real difference maker. This spread feels a touch high, Jim. Duke really shouldn't have an issue stopping Michigan State. Much more athletic team. Could swallow them if they want. It just matters if Duke plays to its level that it's capable of. And I haven't really seen that consistently from Duke. So I'm a little bit nervous about backing them.
Duke has issues stopping everybody, Kai. Yes. I don't care if it's Michigan State or Cal State Fullerton. That defense has serious problems right now, especially off the ball. They just lose focus constantly. Yep. I think this one's a little too high. I'm definitely leaning towards Sparty. Matt, you mentioned K owning Izzo. Izzo's won 2 of the last 3, including the Elite 8 with Zion Williamson. So maybe he's starting to trend back against it. I believe K is 12-3 against Izzo lifetime. But like I said, 2 of the last 3 have gone Sparty's way. And 5-5 against the spread in the last 10. So it's not a ATS ownage. Okay. So I am leaning towards Mr. Izzo and the Spartans. Yeah. Hey, I don't want you to have a narrative. I want you to have data. So.
Data. I'm a big data guy. I know Kai's Mr. Analytics guy over here. So
yes,
claims. But Jim, you're right, because like there's nothing that K does schematically that would.
What does he do schematically these days? Does he do anything?
He got really good players though, and I think the better players show out in this game.
Yes.
A key lineup switch last game I thought was very noteworthy. Trevor Keels got swapped out for Jerry Roach. I think that's the right move. Keels has been kind of bad the last month. He doesn't really have a feel for when he needs to attack.
He takes
bad shots. And I think Roach is just as disruptive defensively, though he's not like the linebacker that Keels is. I think he can get into people. And I think him on Hogard probably is the matchup to watch there. All right, next game. Jimmy, Wisconsin, Iowa State, the buzz cut Badgers. Thought they were going to have trouble with Colgate, and they did for most of the way, but Colgate's offense stalled out late. Iowa State, one of the Big 12 teams that just basically completely debunked their offense is stuck in the mud once they got out of that Big 12 torture chamber of defenses. And they got out and they forced turnover against LSU. Thought they were in complete control of that game. This money's bet up Wisconsin to what, -4.5 now I'm seeing?
Yep.
I like the other side, Jim.
I disagree.
Okay.
I think this matchup is terrific for Wisconsin. I think it's going to be a half-court grind.
They don't turn it over.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Iowa State thrives on forcing turnovers. That's like the key part of their defense, and honestly, the key part of their offense too, is they get some buckets going the other way. Wisconsin leads the entire country in turnover rate. They take great care of it. I love the under. That's my best bet here. Iowa State got a miraculous performance from Tyrese Hunter, homecoming in Milwaukee area, and they still scored 59 points. I think that is representative of how poor their offense is. I think against a Wisconsin team, it's going to keep it half court, Kai. That's not great either, because if you can't get transition buckets for Iowa State, they really struggle to score. A lot of Isaiah Brockington late shot clock pull-ups today. I don't think
Could go well. Enough. Could also go poorly.
So I'm leaning towards the Badgers, but best bet is the under 125.5 is the number I'm seeing. So we will recap these at the end of the show, guys.
Yeah,
time,
sorry.
But
we're way too excited to go down and hit the Bucks yesterday.
The Clones handled LSU, but that was, Jim, I agree. That was a favorable matchup for Iowa State. They got a team that couldn't score. It was a defensive matchup, and I think that's where Iowa State kind of shines. They have more trouble against teams that can actually score. And Wisconsin, for all their awards that people like to point out, they can score. They handle the ball. Jim mentioned the number one turnover rate in the country on offense. That negates Iowa State's biggest advantage on defense, which is causing turnovers. I think it's going to be ugly. I totally agree with the underlane on our best bet from Jim. I cannot see Iowa State scoring consistently enough, Matthew. I like Wisconsin -4.5.
I like Graham in the chat pointing out the Tyrese Hunter on a mission angle, sort of annoyed that he wasn't recruited by Wisconsin. We talked about the Greg Otzelberger and a lot of
Greg Olson.
TJ Greg Otzelberger. Greg Olson, TJ Otzelberger. TJ Otzelberger. I think there's a little chip on the shoulder of the Cyclones here. So
one other thing worth mentioning, Johnny Davis looked pretty healthy down the stretch for that Colgate game. He had a couple big buckets. So I'm less worried about the ankle.
I thought he did tweak it late though, very, very late in the game.
Very late. Okay.
I mean, he's going to play today, but we'll see. I think like the Juzang and Johnny Davis ankles are just like must-watch storylines throughout the rest of the tournament because they're so paramount to both teams' offenses.
Joe Kidd mentioning it's up to 126. I don't understand why people keep betting up Iowa State totals. Last game got bet up 4 points. It landed about 20 under, 15 points under the total. I think that's what we see again today. I'm against the steam.
Well, yeah, I'm just pulling up Iowa State's last whatever games. I think they're on a massive under streak. Jim, let me get that real quick. Actually, no, they're 3 of the last 4 under. So maybe you're right. Some money is not well informed. Kai, going to you here.
Great.
Another Big 12 team that basically went through an offensive explosion. Well, I mean, Iowa State not nearly to the degree that Texas Tech did. They scored at one point, Jim, 2 points per possession. They came back down to earth and finished with like 1.5 in the first half. Montana State is a decent defense, and they completely took it to shreds. And again, I go back to that point. All these Big 12 defenses are awesome, and the Big 12 offenses, I think, were almost undervalued coming into the tournament because now they play against it's like you walk into like a sauna, it's just a breath of fresh air. Notre Dame pack line, they're going to make the Texas Tech make shots. Do you think they can make shots?
Yeah, I'm not worried about Notre Dame's defense. I'm fading them again, Notre Dame, and it's the classic, this team doesn't deserve to be in the tournament, and here they are winning games. And we see it basically every year now. It's a fun narrative. It's March. Yeah, Texas Tech looked like the best team on the planet 2 days ago, scored 1.43 points per possession. Against Montana State, Matt, which you mentioned, they're not a bad defensive team. Texas Tech was just incredible. My one worry with Texas Tech, Jim, which is the way I lean on the side, Notre Dame can shoot, and Texas Tech disallows paint touches, rim looks, but you can get off outside shots. If Cormac Ryan goes bonkers again, of course the Irish can hang here, but I'm leaning towards Texas Tech.
Yeah, career high for Cormac Ryan last game. He was out of his mind.
Guard Cormac Ryan, guard the shooter.
Both of these teams, I thought, kind of shot above their level. Last game, Notre Dame is the much better shooting team. Just case in point, shot quality at Texas Tech scoring 77 points. They actually scored 97. That tells you how much hotter they were than you'd expect. That matched the eye test as I watched that game. It felt like every jumper was going in. So I'm kind of leaning back towards the under here. I think it's going to be a major half-court grind. Notre Dame does not want to run. It's their third game in 5 days. Thankfully, they didn't have to travel for this one. But so yeah, leaning towards the under. I'm kind of against you guys with a Notre Dame lean. I just don't buy the Texas Tech offense that much. But Matthew, tell the people where your best bet is.
First half, Texas Tech, best bet. I got bet up from 7 to 8 on the full game price. So I'm looking at taking that first half, sort of, chopping down that. That's a little bit more reasonable price range for me, Kai. Also, we know second halves are where all bets go to die. So I'm trying to get out of the second half variance debauchery, whatever the hell you want to call it.
Yeah.
One thing to note, Paul Atkinson has looked like a star recently.
Superhero.
A guy who I thought was bullyable early in the season. Now, I think Texas Tech can still do that to him. But if he looks like a guy who can dominate Rutgers front line, which he did, a guy who can dominate Alabama, I think Texas Tech could have their hands full, which is something I would have never thought I would say about like I said, Atkinson against Texas Tech's front line, which is like the most toughest, most physical front line in the country.
Their paint defense continues to be excellent. You just do not get easy buckets against Texas Tech.
So we'll see how that plays out. Hopefully a good one for the week. Kind of going back to you again. I like you as my leadoff hitter, and you can kind of toss to Jim for the alley-oop dunk here. Auburn, Miami. Really upset about this game. I was very dialed into the USC Canes matchup. I had USC for some reason in my mind, like this is a legit team. It's a good matchup. I think they can pound it inside. Yada 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 yada. And the NFL covers in the tournament. It all blew up in my face because USC gave away the ball 18 times compared to Miami's 3.
That's right.
And I think that's why the Canes, that's part of what they've adopted under this 5-out offense with Larry Nugget, right? They can force turnovers, and because they have so many ball handlers, they're not going to turn over themselves. They can kind of they can mitigate the lack of or a potential bad shooting performance, which is what they overcame to get past USC. Now, Auburn's a different animal, Mr. McKeon. I think the spread's it is literally a different animal. Mm-hmm. Is this spread too big though?
No, I don't think so. I don't think it's going to happen against Auburn. The 18-3 turnover difference. Number one, Auburn forces more turnovers than USC. But number two, Auburn's ball handling is better. They actually have real point guards on this team, and they should overwhelm Miami with size, with athleticism. Walker Kessler, Jabari Smith. I mean, look, I thought USC would overwhelm Miami with size as well. But again, the 18 turnovers was a problem. Game still got pretty close to the end. I think Auburn handles business here. I like them at -7.
Yeah, Kai, I've been kind of saying Auburn is a better USC, where they have the same kind of size, dominance at the rim. That's both of their identities. And Auburn just has slightly better guards. Matt, you mentioned you think this line is a little too high. I sort of agree. 7.5 is tough for me to lay with Auburn right now because I don't trust the shot making of their guards. They're too erratic, too up and down for me to really trust. But I mean, look, USC out rebounded Miami 38-26. I think it's going to be as much or more of a bloodbath on the glass here. So yeah, with Auburn's guards being better than USC's, lean towards Auburn winning. I think they do win, but 7, Matt, it's just a tough number for me. I'm not betting this game.
Yeah, no official action for me as well. The Walker Kessler matchup will be fascinating, right? Can Auburn play through, get easy buckets through him on offense? Can Miami exploit him on defense and pull him away from the lane? We shall see. Next up here, Purdue, Texas, Jim, another Big 12 team. Big 12 has been dominant, by the way, in both the men's and women's tournaments, Kai. So good weekend for that conference. I know you're very invested in conference narratives. So it's one of your favorites. Yeah.
Thank you.
Jim, I'm going to go to you here first. Purdue, Texas. The Boilers, I think, are legit. While they had a favorable first-round matchup that may have fooled me into, reconvincing myself that they're legit, I think they've been slept on. However, Texas, another team that we saw get out of the Big 12 and had an offensive outburst against a VOD Tech team that was as hot as any in the country. So I don't really know what gives here. I think the line's a little too short. It's been bet up to 3.5. Your thoughts?
I think both of these teams are ones that I had given up on my future on them. I have a Purdue 40-1 and a Texas 50-1. Now they have against each other and a St. Peter's game to get to the Elite Eight. So one of these teams should be in the Elite Eight.
Jim. No one's beating anybody.
Yeah, the Peacocks are on fire. I keep waiting for a team with an awesome offense to exploit Purdue. Like last year, we talked about Iowa having the defensive issues, and Oregon lit them up, like completely thrashed them offensively. I don't think Texas is capable of that. I don't know if the Longhorns have the capability of taking advantage of that big weakness for Purdue. Texas is similar to Houston in that they will double the post like crazy, Kai. Travion Williams, Zach Edey might not have their biggest game. So it's going to probably come down to the shooters of Purdue. Do we get a big one from Stefanovic, from Isaiah Thompson, from Mason Gillis? Do those guys knock down shots? I think that's huge here. I think this number's a little too low. I kind of like Purdue.
I like Purdue too. I think size and rebounding is going to be a problem for Texas, actually. I know they pack it under Beard, but they don't have that top line size at the center position.
Yeah, I agree.
That Purdue clearly does. And we saw Purdue live at the line against Yale. Now Texas is a much better defensive team than Yale. They're more athletic, of course, but they have a 318th ranked free throw rate defense in the country. Texas, they foul a lot. Purdue lives the line. That's what they do. Edey and Williams should rack up free throw attempts. I'm not super scared of Texas' offense. Purdue's defense is just okay. It's better than Ohio State's. I'm just not super scared of Texas offense, man. It doesn't strike fear in my heart. So I think Purdue minus 3.5 is the right side.
Yeah, that's where I lean as well. I'd be honest, very unimpressed with / annoyed with Travion Williams lately. Just something like his decisions out of the post, wild passes.
He's going for the highlights.
Yeah, like you saw his minutes sort of dissipate a little bit, only 18 minutes. I know it was mostly blowouts. I don't want to read too much into that. But Edey's got 20. He was dominant 16 and 20. I think Edey is going to get 25, 30 minutes, a steady diet inside for the big fella. All right, as we continue along, last game here, TCU, Arizona. The Horned Frogs completely dominated Seton Hall in their opening round matchup. Arizona got big early against Wright State, but played with their food, could not secure the cover, but I thought they looked pretty much as advertised. Jim, I don't have a ton of profound takes on this game. I guess the one matchup angle is, can TCU's burly size up front pose problems for Arizona? And my first gut reaction is no.
It might be able to, especially on the offensive glass. I think Kyle probably hit that matchup component pretty hard here. It's worth noting. I know I'm citing shot quality a lot. I think it's just good context. Shot quality scored that as a Seton Hall win by 1. So I think that was a little bit lucky. I don't totally buy that analysis or assessment of the game. I thought TCU was dominant, and it felt dominant as I watched it. But the big flaw for Arizona, and the reason they didn't cover, is because they coughed the ball up. 25% of their possessions in the first round, they turned it over against Wright State. TCU doesn't force a ton of turnovers, but I still think that's a flaw for Arizona, especially without Kirk Kriisa. Not having a true point guard in the lineup is an issue. So Kai, I'm leaning towards Arizona because I think they can take away easy buckets in the paint, and I think they can knock down shots. But there's enough reasons for pause that I'm not excited to lay 9.5.
Yeah, TCU, they want to score inside, need to score inside. That's tough against Arizona. My voice is gone. Excuse me, one more time.
Dig in.
But they are the best offensive rebounding team in the country. If the Cats are undisciplined, going for blocks, leaking on transition, I think the Frogs can hang, cause issues. Kriisa, I think matters more a little bit today, obviously, against TCU, a top 20 defense. I actually think TCU can be scrappy or Matt and hang. At plus 9.5, I lean their way.
Yeah, I'm curious to see if they can force some turnovers potentially. We'll see how Kriisa, what that whole situation materializes into. I have it on record saying I'm not worried about it. I think the 7 that they have are good enough to make a deep run. I also said about Baylor, and that was quickly debunked by UNC team that looks like the best in the country. Right?
Baylor had major foul trouble.
Yeah.
Meyer had 3 fouls in the first half, got his 4th early. In
the one he fouled out on was just bananas dumb. What are you doing?
I'm frustrated that I got beat foul.
That's why I got Matty Meyer too. Offended relentlessly forever. Guys, that's a short, quick, and dirty show. Let's recap best bets as we failed to do so yesterday. Kai, Heartthrob Sunglasses, what did you take?
Well, my dear boy, I'm on Illinois plus 4. I am taking the Illini against Houston in a game that I think should be lined at pick. Illinois plus 4.
All right. My best bet is the Iowa State Wisconsin under 125.5 at our wonderful BetRivers sponsor. I also really like the first half under there. If you want to add that one too, I know it's a very low number, but Matt, I just think that game is a street fight grind, half court brawl.
I tend to agree. I'm going Texas Tech -4. I'm hoping it's not
first half,
Kai, because second halves don't matter in this business. I'm hoping my game is not quite the street fight. I like some points. I think you need to slightly higher scoring game would be better to pull away as a favorite backer there. I think it matches up well for Texas Tech, and I think they're on a roll. I think the Final Four is, I don't know what the updated future price on Texas Tech Final Four, but the draw is going to shape up, I think, fairly favorably for them, Kai. I think they match up very well with Duke. That's all we got, kids. Thank you for joining. We are back. What's our schedule this week? We need to probably post.
I believe we're back on Thursday for the Sweet 16 games.
Okay. So 3 days without us. I'm sorry. We're going to miss you guys. But hey, thank you for tuning in and going to war with us these last 2 mornings. We do appreciate it. Until that time, good luck.